So the Trump administration is now trying to whitewash the history of the Holocaust, or at least they're trying to rewrite the role that the American government had in sealing the fate of the victims. It certainly looks like it after the museum announced that one of its exhibits will remain closed for some unknown upgrades. And it normally would not be suspicious if it weren't for this executive order and the fact that the exhibit we're talking about partly criticizes the United States government for its response to the crisis experienced by the Jewish people in Europe in the 1930s and 40s. Now, we don't know what that exhibit will look like when it reopens, but it is entirely possible that the shovels of the Trump administration will have those memories and historical facts completely buried by the time we see the exhibit again. So since I've been to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. and the Yad Vashem in Jerusalem dozens of times, I figured I'd leave this here for posterity and remind you of some of the responsibilities borne by the U.S. government for the fate of the Jewish population in the 1930s and 40s. And there's a deep dive on my Substack that you can go to, but for right now, here are the most egregious events. Events like the Wagner-Rogers bill that would have admitted 20,000 Jewish children above national quota, but the bill was withdrawn because of strong opposition, the details of which you can read on my Substack. Events like the rejection at the port of the Drachenhall ship that was carrying Jewish refugees from Europe. The ship arrived at a U.S. port of entry, but U.S. officials refused to let it dock, and many of the people that were repatriated eventually perished in camps. Or this other ship, the St. Louis, which in 1939 carried to the United States 900 Jewish immigrants, all of which were denied entry and put back in the hands of German authorities. Or the infamous suppression of the Regner telegram in 1942. It was a communication from Swiss authorities that detailed the atrocities by the German government. This information was suppressed by US authorities for months. We can't allow this administration to silence the voices of history just because it's pieces of history that don't really concern us, but at some point, the history we're forced to forget will repeat itself and make us their victim.